Here we have one of the genuine old Menlo Park chairs, and in which Edison often sat. This layout here, the setting here, was made by Mr. Edison himself when he came down to Dearborn in 1929 to visit Mr. Henry Ford. It happened one day that he said, "Ford, come up in the laboratory. I'll show you how I used to prepare those raw filaments." And he hustled me about to get him various hydrocarbons and other kinds of carbons, and he made this putty as you see here. And after he had knated it to his satisfaction, he slapped down the knife as you see it here, and there it shall remain. He also made this batch of putty, and then he made several filaments and presented them to Mr. Ford. Mr. Ford has taken one and twined it around this stick here to be preserved here, while the rest he guards zealously in his museum. This is Edison's first invention. He was only 21 years of age when he invented the vote recorder. The object of this instrument was to take a vote in the National House of Representatives in a minute or two. When he showed that instrument at Washington, the chairman, after seeing how quick it works, said, "Young man, if there is any invention we don't want here, it's this instrument." One of the greatest weapons in the hands of a minority is filibustering. And with this instrument, you can't do it. Take it away. Edison took it away, and from that time on, thought his future efforts would go in making more substantial inventions for the benefit of all. Here we have the Edison golden stock ticket. This instrument he made when he was only 22 years of age. He obtained a patent for it in 1869. It's the little instrument, you know, that brings joy to so few and agony to many. Then he improved it, and later on it took this form here, and it became the standard in America. Everywhere where quotations were broadcasted, the Edison golden stock ticker was used. I might say that with this instrument he began his inventive career. In 1876, Edison invented the electric pen. It was used for manifolding processes, and about 10,000 copies could be made with it. Here we have the whole outfit. Here is the battery. Here is the little pen, which you see revolves very rapidly. This motor actuates a shaft that bobs up and down, and at the end of the shaft there is a needle. Now in writing, you puncture the paper. You make a stencil, and then you take the stencil and place it in the press, as I have done here. I made this stencil this morning. Now I will show you how it works. It was very simple. Here's a roller, ink roller, and here we have the picture. It shows two cronies swapping stories. Here is a specimen dating back many years that was made with the electric pen. By the way, this pen here was presented to Mr. Henry Ford by Mr. Edison at Fort Myers, Florida. I might also mention that soon after the invention of the Edison electric pen, Edison also invented the mimeograph. Dick of Chicago says Edison is the father of all stencil work. In 1877, Edison gave to the world one of the most thrilling and wonderful instruments that ever a fantastic mind dared to dream of. Many men before Edison tried in vain to make a machine that would reproduce sound or the human voice. They failed, and among the most illustrious were such men as Helmholtz of Berlin or Lord Rayleigh of London. They knew all about sound. They had written volumes. Yet they failed in an attempt to make a machine that would talk. It was Edison who ran through that hard-boiled University of life. He gave the world the machine that will give you back the voice of the dead. He called it a phonograph. And the marvelous thing about it is that it is as simple as it is great. There here, I have one of the old pioneer phonographs of 1878, made just after Edison had made his first experiments. It is nothing else but a cylinder grooved upon a shaft with a flywheel, and then a mouthpiece with a diaphragm and pin. I'm going to let you hear this baby, how it squealed when it first saw the light of day. The pioneer records were made by the use of tin foils. We had to envelop the phonograph with the tin foil. As you see, I am now doing it. There it is, now ready to make the record. I will repeat in making this record what Edison repeated in his first phonograph. Hello, hello, hello. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. And everywhere where Mary went, that lamb was sure to go. Ha, 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 ha. Now I shall reproduce what I have just said, and you can surmise how Edison felt when for the first time he heard his voice repeated. That night the crown of immortality was placed upon his head. When the news of Edison's great invention of the phonograph was heralded throughout the world, it created an excitement that defies description. People flocked here in multitudes to hear a machine talk, a simple machine. They could not believe it. I well remember the day when the phonograph was presented before the French Academy of Science, and two of its most illustrious members got up and said, "It is impossible. The man that's turning the crank is a ventriloquist. It's an American hoax." They were invited down to talk into the phonograph, and and reproduce their own speech. Then first did they believe it. Now, I want to show you also a phonograph that Edison gave me on New Year's Day, 1879. It was the commercial form that was sold for about $6, and thousands of them went away.